This is TMU's roster. Very, very good. Let's go ahead and take a look at Columbia College's as well. Another great selection of rosters. I'm very sad we don't get to see how, what year in college they are on the side there. Where did that go this season, this semester? Calvin D, Legend, Carnage, Predzu, and Germsy on the board. Supposedly, they're going to be trading in and out players in this match just across the board for Columbia College. And we've been talking about Sunset so much. There's a reason for it. It's because it is being picked up for the first map, and it will be Columbia College opting to do so. So there is a big variation in agent select. Columbia College still going with that raise, like we mentioned, that is extremely strong on this map. Cypher's huge, pertinent for information that you really want to watch up on, especially if you're looking to deny map control from that defending side. You can play up that Cypher to keep them out of courtyard, keep them out of top. Anything of the sort can make a lot of use for that intel. And TMU just have a lot of initiating power, it feels like, behind the KO for that 0 point to get around corners, the fade, having that haunt for that extra bit of denial for sightlines. Everything across the board feels like they have something working. Just have to see it actually connect with kills, and they've already gotten 2 here in the pistol round.
You mentioned the initiating power. I mean, that's all it really comes down to, because they have like a duelist completely. That's all they have to work with. There's no matchup here of that exact slot. You're not able to provide too much speed on the attacking side. You're expecting Columbia College to have themselves a relative kind of lead here to go ahead and start things off. Because it's their map pick, keep in mind, so they're supposed to feel a little bit more comfortable. And the pistol rounds always are what really put you to the test of whether or not you know a map, can spread yourself out, and really just create these opportunities to find those picks. So it comes down to them. Can they bring this thing back? Because it's not just going to be another round one. It's going to be probably 2 rounds. Obviously kind of guaranteed that second round as a follow-up as a bonus comes through. But considering that the more kills are going over the side of Decay, just holding down the entire site, you do inevitably see a trade coming through. But even then, the entire lockdown for sites coming out, that plant site isn't all that big surrender, that massive column there in the center. So there's not too much you can do besides just rush the man, knowing how low he can really be.
Yeah, B-Main seemingly is the burial ground for Columbia College's point of entry. No one tried to work in the other way. They really just wanted a straightforward approach, and TMU punished them quite literally at the gates, exiting out towards that lobby side. Very beautiful disposition for success on the defense. We'll have to see how it pans out here for the second round as they'll opt to go for their force. Columbia College will meet them at least a little bit. 3 sheriffs looks like it's about as much as they're willing to commit to. Players that got kills or assists may pick up armor. We see Predzu going for soft armor. See Germsy just saying, hey, I got 3 kills. I'm gonna put my eco at about everyone else's standpoint. I'll pick up armor and a sheriff for myself. And the team looks about ready to re-pressure on in towards the side as they'll leave one player prowling off over towards the A side towards A lobby, and the rest of the team back over towards B main, where unfortunately they lost the only soft arm they had, as their Cypher, who was over towards A, falls short quite literally at the opening gates towards that side, and it's back into a tip towards B with nothing else to work with.
This is one of those areas of the map where you kind of look towards the middle of Ascent or the middle of Split. Like, the middle of the map always kind of dictates the control of the entire pace of the game, but they shifted things a little bit. With the easy entryway and the very close gates to each other over towards that B main area of the map, you're going to see those fights go down a lot faster, a lot quicker, and usually be a little bit more defense-sided. Consider that, you can just kind of hold that angle, swing off, and just get scot-free right back to site. Consider what kind of utility you're dealing with or what agents you have at your disposal. So even in a round like this where you see the close quarter combat, the sheriffs, the classics being in the hands of these Columbia College players, they're looking for the kind of places of the map that will really serve them some real purpose and kind of find themselves an opportunity to find those kills. But they're instead being forced to just kind of take that over to the back of the map, already opening up the middle, seeing where they can find themselves a little bit of exchange. But here on the defensive side, it seems like when you got players with number to classic and maybe a sheriff scattered in between it, you're not going to get too much done.
Legends in a nice tucked in corner, able to take down their doppelganger Fate of Sean with a nice classic right click. Unfortunately, leaves now all by their lonesome, with Huns taking down Germsy, and Fives will clear things out quickly after the fact. TMU Blue will take their round win where needed. It doesn't seem like they faced too many losses at the end result of round 2, but it is still 2 weapons that they would have and could have purchased that are no longer available, and those 2 players will have to think twice about what they're going to opt for in this 3rd round, because the commitment's kind of big here. Columbia College didn't get very much in the first round. They didn't get very much in the second. They should be able to buy up everybody with a proper rifle and some level of armor, as there are 3 players with soft armor. Now the question is going to be, we've pretty much only seen a B site push right off the rip. They tested the waters in courtyard. They know they couldn't step towards market. They put one player off their fade towards the Boba side. They put 1 player off towards the Link side, and they just didn't find very much to the team. So where are they going to go? A completely new objective, and TMU Blue has guessed poorly. 3 players stacked on the B site, Dallas, and Columbia have rushed A, and they're already ready to put that spike down.
not really too much of an actual, challenge and allocation of resources in the gamble there. You just want to have those players towards that B side of the map because, as I mentioned, it's almost like the middle of the map when it comes around to other maps and how much pressure needs to be really worked on there. But Columbia College, they've had to go ahead and set up this default. They didn't explore the A site too much in that second round, so they need to go ahead and figure out what this default looks like, where these defenders allocate themselves. They've now kind of already had an idea of who really places themselves on this side of the map. You've seen the KO now. You knew that the round one guarantee was going towards B, and now you're looking at this legitimate split of these players, looking to try and figure out how they can go ahead and kind of tell themselves a little bit and trying to take down as many players in the process. But it's just not going to happen in the slightest. Columbia College having themselves the guns and Legend with a 3K. That's one individual trading out themselves 3 times over without even any kind of sacrifice because they're still standing. So good stance there from the likes of Columbia to kind of get themselves on the board, especially with the flawless at the back end of it. But with TMU now waking up a little bit, full purchases from everybody. And well, Hun's running that operator now. You're going to have full control of the map. You're going to be a little bit more prepared for what's to come.
TMU Blue apparently stuck in 2021 or 2022. Chamber with an operator. I mean, acting as your go-to duelist. Everyone was really hard-pressed to say Chamber's extra role. They just played like a duelist behind your Jet or your Raze now for Bind. But back in the day, Chamber truly just was that duelist in your face. Didn't have the movement ability you necessarily want to get aggressive, but has the ability to stay alive, which is very much so useful for a duelist. Just not so much in the current composition, which is why ISO may not be the best of the best, lacking that movement forward. Hans, though, does open up, speak their name, and come into existence. Not the Caster's Curse, though. First blood in this round with that operator, and TMU Blue have put their name on this round very early, and they need to do so because Columbia College escaped that last round with a flawless result, and you want anything but that to occur once again as they are waiting out all of the utility that's being dumped their way by TMU, and they left the slightest sightline. The Astra bubble too far to the side, and it gives a perfect line of sight to the fate of Sean to close out for the second kill of the round.
I feel it's a little bit intentional, but even kind of an angle that you're expecting to hold to a certain degree already. I mean, considering that TMU, they put these guns up, they saw the player die towards mid-alley, and now you know exactly where everyone else is. So they're just kind of fishing a barrel for the slaughter at that point. There's not really too much you can do. That first blood really going ahead, not only finding the precedent in terms of the kills and the trades, but better yet going ahead and setting an expectation and a good prediction of where the rest of the team's going to be. Because quite frankly, on this map, it feels way too small to kind of default yourself out too much and look for the spreads and look for flanks. You just want to hit a site, execute, and especially with how close quarters it feels, it's relatively easy to do so long as you have all the resources at hand.
John, in that last round, has had 2 big rounds in a row. If you highlight what they've been able to do in the successes they've had, 4 kills in that last round, good utility trying to burn things out for Columbia College. Not enough to keep yourself in that round of contention. It was still flawless for their side. That entire last round was very Fade-centric. The only 2 kills for Columbia came at the hands of their Fade, who had taken, 3 kills in the round prior, maybe even 4. It seems like the initiation right now is king for either side, and it doesn't feel like we're seeing enough impact out of the true duelist from Columbia just yet, and the lack of duelist from TMU, it has not been harboring against them. Thankfully, though, they're on the defense. When that problem starts to really harbor against that side, it's going to become very reliant about getting onto retakes, which is why TMU are playing very heavy, very upfront on this defense, trying to completely stop Columbia from taking control of ground and taking over an objective. They do not want to have to play for that retake. But the problems will come even worse when they have to transition over to the attack, and Team U do not have that duelist to get out into the gate, out into the site, and they have to just pray that utility can burn away the sight lines of Columbia College, and that isn't even working now. Huge nightmare comes out from Columbia College, 2 kills picked up. They've only lost 1, and they're rushing now into that B site from Market and from B main.
You can already see this round going away, obviously being in the hands, of Columbia College, the way they found themselves the initial picks they needed, and better yet, kind of executed off it near instantaneously. You can go ahead and give that a big credit to the likes of what their individuality was looking like. This is the first round we've seen a legit default from the attacking side of the map. They didn't really go ahead and pressure too much. They looked for the legitimate hit and took multiple angles. They didn't funnel in through a single entry point. They looked for the kind of advantages and looked for anybody who's overextending around the map. So they found themselves a picks necessary, and almost an immediate take goes right onto the site. Knowing one of these players has an operator and can't really go ahead and engage too much of an actual retake underhand, you're not going to give up the extra gun and really throw one player into the bull's pit with 4 players just waiting on them and setting up crosses and Lord knows where. So you got to give the credit here to Team U to kind of respect the push, know when to kind of fold and just back themselves up, figure out what to do next in the round going on. And I think, quite frankly, there's a little bit too many unchecked corners from the side of TMU, considering how well they've looked so far. You see that trademark going over towards the other side of A. You see the chamber pushed up a little bit more aggressively towards the A main. You're already checking that one entryway that gets you over to that side. So that trademark kind of feels a little bit irrelevant and doesn't cover too much of the actual middle of the map. They have to do a better job. Even though I say B main feels like the middle of a map of other map selections, mid is still just nearly as important, considering that market control is an easy take for B if you really acquire it.
I mean, you have to be a little bit loud about it. Got to break down door. There's a big question about the security of defending that. And we saw TMU put a lot of players there, or more specifically their fade there at the initial point to try to keep that back. But TMU just didn't have enough point of emphasis. No one was contesting towards top mid, which meant they had no information of any players stepping in through courtyard. And it just felt like they fell a little bit flat when the pressure from Columbia College finally rolled up to its boiling point and started to move forward with contention. And speaking of which, this A site is being fully contested, and the plants already having gone down. Calvin setting up the bubble, planning to get in a safety net, and TMU now having to retake an objective where I mentioned they're arguably their weakest with this agent selection. They're going to have to put a lot of pressure on the shoulders of their KO in their harbor, and the KO is already dead, meaning with limited weapons they're already bringing, this seems like a hard pressed round to win, and it is turning out that way easily. Predsu, Carnage, and Legend with 2 in the hold, and Columbia College tie us up 3-3.
Already reckoning going underway, at least for the attacking side. One available for the retake in the next one, but you're not going to invest that when you have the sheriff, so it makes sense it was saved in that last one. Constant Divide, not going to offer too much here. You're just looking for more of the universal utility of Astra, being able to place any utility anywhere you need and kind of let it be more versatile. You know there's definitive choke points inside of this map, so you're just going to be setting up for those and making sure to kind of cut off as much as possible. And even it looks really good for retakes, knowing that you can just kind of go ahead and reallocate all those stars so long as you kind of waited around long enough and say, you know what, I can just pick everything up safely, knowing that we now have that defensive pressure and how narrow this map is, that I can actually take those back and have sufficient time for it to actually regenerate in the meantime. But speaking of meantime, we're going ahead and pushing side. Once again, another B main hit, looking to go ahead and kind of speed things up a little bit with that raise being in the game. We know the speed it can provide. Problem is, if it's choked up by the likes of a fragment nade, even a showstopper will be stopped in its own tracks.
Very, I would say, interesting attempt on the entry in for Columbia College. They're making use of the slits up above to create a point of entry in towards B main because they expect TMU to aggress that very early, since they have been in the majority of these rounds. They didn't as much in this round, which meant that they had to face value, face check the corner, swinging out of B main, and Columbia College lose a life in the process. The success past that, though, has been nothing but Columbia College's to gain. TMU are left with only 2 players. One of those was Stallion, who was completely trapped all by their lonesome in a cubby towards B. And it leaves just the one lonesome fate of Sean, who didn't even come into this round with anything to their name. TMU Blue once again is stuck on the back burner, and this looks like Columbia College will take their 4-3 stat line. I don't know, if you're Sean here, do you just play to die to spike and you go for an exit frag? I'd anticipate you just rush in. It's not a big deal because you only have a sheriff. But if you die to a weapon, you're giving that player an ultimate pip and credits. You try to avoid that, but Columbia do a great job closing it in, and Legend will get the kill they need to get up to their 5th pip on their ultimate.
Another thing when it comes around to bringing Rays on top of this map, or at least some agent with the relative mobility to their kit. I can go ahead and mention that back B site. You see that little kind of bump that was there that was being checked? And Sean was very well aware of it, that a Rays could be on top of that. It's not something for free. You have to kind of use something to get up there. You'll use either a blast pack, or you'll use maybe, a rendezvous. Just something to work with there to kind of get yourself up for the element of surprise. But it's just not the case. For retake scenario, it makes it absolutely hellish just to kind of figure out, because it's one extra thing to check, and it's especially in a different elevation from what you're used to working with. So it's never really something you're expecting too much, and it always is able to at least find one in the meantime. So consider that now in a round like this, on the defensive side, the Reckoning was invested in that last round, didn't really find too much of an effect. Columbia College, once again, kind of being able to take control of that market area, but even in a very large initiation there from the likes of Maine. You've got to look out for these and able to go ahead and get a first blood, especially on that raise. You're saying, all right, that's the leg up that we needed. We just got to execute. Problem is, Legend isn't going to let you do that easily.
That's the idea from TMU, was mostly to get that door down, check if utilities being dumped in towards courtyard, and then using that as a pivot point for Columbia. They did exceptionally well. 3 players in through courtyard, leaving a couple back through main. They get in towards site, get a safe plant, and now can reposition for a post plant, where Carnage has taken full proving ground up through courtyard and into top mid. They're working now towards Bopa. They're going to watch the full flank, the full backside of that B site, which means TMU have no safety on their rear, and they are going to feel the pressure from both sides. sides, which will inevitably create opportunities and mistakes from the side of the two players who were remaining. And now it's just Stallion losing their teammate of Huns. It is a horrible spot to be in. A 1v3 does manage to knock it down to just a twofer. But you got Germsy not too far away, who does want to hunt for that kill, but a great escape map made back towards defender spawn, and the operator having been collected will at least save face for TMU for another round.
The wild thing to me, I mean, one thing you mentioned specifically was going to be that mid control, talking about kind of listening for that utility and whatnot. Issue is, we've already seen so many rounds where TMU's just giving it in the middle of the map. They're letting this entry on the market happen again and again and again. And quite frankly, sure, it's important to get that door down, but have a singular player over towards B, or have two players and let it be a little bit of a split and set up those layers, and have that third player ready to rotate, covering the middle of the map. We're not seeing that attendance be checked just yet. We're not letting that presence be known. 3 of these rounds, at least so far in this game, the middle of the map has been completely given up. Not only just kind of in these later stages being accounted for and just kind of playing for the retake when it comes around to this, these full rifle rounds, but even then, when you're looking at these earlier rounds, where you're looking at these players going ahead, stacking up, they're going to throw utility in the middle of the map anyways. They have utility to just kind of waste. They can pop a hunt immediately, and if it doesn't get shot, you're well aware of who's there. And quite frankly, you've already gotten accustomed to nobody being there. This is the kind of opportunity you can get for a curveball to be thrown in there. Allocate a player to a middle, contest that side of the map, get your harbor to look for some early walls to cut things off so you can actually make a move rather than playing reactively, and see if you can actually engage that frag and put them into a situation where they're kind of caught in their own shoes. They're kind of stuck a little bit. We haven't seen Columbia really be stopped yet. They just have free real estate to push on any side of the map. A site has actually been attempted, not the full rifle attempts though from both sides. Instead, it's been B, 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 and every single time it's been equilibrium with both these squads and the buys that they're dishing out. And they know as soon as that side is taken over, quite frankly, TMU every single time has saved. They need to actually attempt something here. They're losing too many resources too fast, and they're allocating too much towards that B side to lose right off the get-go to the aggression of a duelist providing.
Well, with this timeout that has been called for the side of TMU due to Decay DCing, the expectation is going to be, how do we meet up with the operator? Do we play just a glass cannon strategy? Do we put sheriffs across the rest of the team? Do we just, rush in from one side and try to get some early pickups, use the operator as a play in from behind to squeak a couple kills out while the sheriffs deal damage in the process? It's hard to say, but like you said, Courtyard has been such a dominant position for Columbia College, and the craziest part is defensively you only have 2 spots to defend it from. You cannot defend it from A side whatsoever unless you're playing from top mid. And by that point, you're just playing from top mid in the first place. It's just one of 2 angles to work from. Yep. And every time we've seen Columbia College even put a player down that lane, they use the harbor wall. They cut down the sight line from top mid, which leaves you only market door. And most of the time, Columbia break the door down and swing forward faster than the TMU can start to adjust. I think we need to put the chamber there. I think you need to have the rendezvous there. You get the early peek because the wall isn't placed for that door. You get a kill through with an operator or a tour de force, and you fall back with the rendezvous to the backside of B, and you wait for the team to rotate where necessary. And in a round like this, there is nothing necessary. Pop the tour de force, have another operator, try to have everyone meet and match because Columbia College already have spiked out on site.
Is that site that's just so punishing. You already lose it initially anyways in a full rifle round. Now you're looking at an anti-eco and you're saying, all right, this is one more attempt. Problem is, the wild card here amongst us. We're seeing Columbia College already start things off once again pretty darn strong. The tour de force being employed here, hoping another player can kind of find that charge up, but it's just not going to happen here. Picks on picks on picks on picks here for Columbia College. You can tell that they love this B-side, and quite frankly, they don't care that it's kind of getting a little bit stale. You're here to win. And it's a winning strategy. Over and over again, you see them bolting immediately over towards that B side of the map because really nobody's going to stop them. Whether or not it be a full buy, whether or not it be a pistol, as you mentioned, that rendezvous is going to be available for that B side of the map. Look for an early rotation, cut across here, not really dishing with anybody in market. But even then, I would say the chamber needs to hold something closer. Over towards that A side, maybe. Have that angle to where it's watching door, but you're not at risk of being pushed on that left side of that middle tent. And I mean, you're kind of scot-free. You're in the back of the map, you lap around through your spawn, you have free real estate to kind of get something done so long as you get that first pick of the player who's possibly lurking through the middle of the map. You need to account for a lot more angles, and quite frankly, it feels like you only have control. While half of it's given to you right off the start, it feels like you're giving 25% of that up, where you really just have nothing left.
TMU Blue, once again, having big questions about what they can possibly do. And I think a lot of this could just be a victory
funneling through it.
This could just be a victory straight for Columbia College because they know the map and team you just weren't expecting. It's hard to tell, but just haven't seen enough glimpses from TMU Blue to say anything yet. This round, though, may be the beginning of the best case scenario for them, as it'll be their biggest round win they've had so far in this series and their first flawless and the best way to do it. Only 2 rounds left in this half, and they've kept it somewhat close on the defense, and Columbia College have now faced their first loss in the last 6 rounds.
Well, it proves that TMU is going to look pretty good on the attacking side of the map, knowing that you could just kind of swooped up the positions and made sure that their spawn was now yours. It's weird how TMU looks a little bit better of covering the defensive side of the map even when they're on defense compared to, you know, the angles they're expected to be holding initially. So it's a little wild in its own right, but I mean, hey, it's impressive in its own right just as well to kind of see that they now found themselves a presence on the map, and I mean, even then, not really investing too many of these ultimates in the meantime, because now those are available when you really actually need them. A flawless, everybody has rifles again. This is going to be the best chance for TMU to actually go ahead and surmount these ecos out of Columbia College, because, well, that's a full buy from everybody, and you've invested literally nothing into it.
It's a big rush for Columbia College. They did get gate kept for just a little bit. Very good job by TMU to make sure that while Columbia College was dumping their own level of utility, using the breach, trying to make use of the space with the fade and the harbor walls, that kept them just a little bit lower, which meant less util and less to total work with in this retake as TMU start to rush forward. Nightfall does come out. They also pop the null command coming out from Stallion. They do get DBNO'd in the process, but it is still TMU Blue taking picks like they're candy from a baby. And it is a 5th round now to be collected for TMU, as they are just 1 away from tying things up 6-6 against Columbia College on their map pick, on a map it looks like they were doomed to sweep in this first half.
Man, Columbia, as I mentioned, finding that momentum, working into it, hitting that B-side over and over again. I know you don't want to get stale, but quite frankly, you just keep trying it till it doesn't work anymore. They had that mid-control. The only thing stopped them was going to be that smoke that came up right there towards that garage, or that market door, excuse me, as a little bit of an exchange, a little bit of an actual slowdown. And that was enough to stop them in their tracks to completely go ahead, wrap around the map, and find themselves that first round loss in a while, which went ahead and just surmounted the second back-to-back now. So this is the point where Columbia College, quite frankly, they're looking to kind of define themselves again. Look for that presence, kind of have that intimidation factor. But I feel quite frankly, after 2 rounds in a row, sure, you just kind of won 5, but who cares anymore? You've now surmounted 2 on the other side. TMU, they're saying we went ahead and won B side, we won A side. And the fact that even then, that first round that they won was on the A side of the map. Even though the spawns are kind of flipped up, that's where Columbia College just kind of wants to get eager. And they want to, like, prove themselves wrong to a certain degree, to say, look, we need to hit this A site and win it now to kind of go ahead and compensate. They just kind of been losing more in the process.
Columbia College know they've got a big advantage when it comes to rushing forward into the backline of TMU, so once they get the spike down, they try to play super aggressive, and they're being punished for it. Just Predzu remaining, and they get 3!
My God.
What a shutdown from Predzu, and Columbia College managed to hold on to the lead at halftime, denying the 6-6 stat line TMU were pretty much well-deservedly working towards in the final few rounds there, Dallas. But Predzu takes matters into their own hands. Legend could not keep up in the final 3 rounds. Someone's going to take their place, and Predzu finally steps up to the plate. But now comes the defense, where TMU had so many problems, and TMU, who looked like a very solid aggressing team in those final few 3, Dallas, now get to move on to the attack, which very much so warranted success from Columbia early in this series.
Yeah, so I mean, already it came off with the starting end of it, and I mean, considering they were supposed to have a little bit of a leg up on this attacking side, it's because obviously considering that they're running the duelist. But I mean, I told them, I mean, that's what it comes down to. You got to find that early lead, you got to look for it, and even then, that 2-round cushion, this could be, you know, 9-3 right now if those pistols were won by Columbia College. That's how important those were. You could go ahead and kind of be looking at the end of the game, like I said, the bonus on round 10, and just look to close up shop here for the entire match. But that's not going to be the case here. Already Columbia College are looking to go ahead and compensate a little bit, find themselves a pistol round here to start things off, and that's exactly what they've done, and one of the cleanest vendors we've seen thus far.
Yeah, it was a very good success coming out of the defense for Columbia College. They knew they could play a little bit more patient. They could fight early and then fall back. They've got the safety into the corners. That's one of the great things about the defense for most maps here in Valorant is there's a lot. The architecture is the biggest ally you can possibly have. Take advantage of that space. Take advantage of the control and force TMU into the peeker's advantage mindset, but the same thing you can do, we can do better, because we know exactly where you have to come in from. You're moving to our proving ground, not yours. In Columbia College, take the first round. That's two rounds now in a row for them, and they're expected to get the bonus here after, as everyone has brought up Spectres, and TMU are really wanting to move in towards the central mid side, that courtyard position. There is one player over towards Boba that was holding top mid, and now a second to join them for Columbia as they just hold the distance and wait for TMU to commit.
Already looking to see kind of slow and steady how this is going to pan out, where the execution is going to take place, what kind of information we're seeing TMU try to collect. Haven't once again split things up. You hit the B side for the first round. Looks like a kind of a follow-up coming up for the second round here. And quite frankly, I don't know really what that gives you. You look to double down, you start to see if they hit themselves a little bit of a mold, but quite frankly, if you look for those early aggressions towards that A side of the map, first off, nobody really expects it. In the second round, we've already seen, once again, both teams trying to kind of push to the middle of the map, look to do it, and I mean, both sides have given that up. Maybe that's going to be kind of a note taken by Columbia a little bit earlier on than what we saw in the likes of TMU. But, I mean, there's potential here for a round underway. You still got Sheriffs, you got a tour de force, you have possibilities, you have frags that can go in your direction and can really just create a domino effect. But with a spray through and you know a wall and you know they're going for the default, I mean, it's just free kills.
Huns does manage to scrape away one before falling, which is at least a good footing for TMU to say they participated in this round, but that much patience, that much of a slower kind of draw through the beginning and middle stages of that round, and the only thing they find for themselves is a single frag off the back of a HUD hunter. It can feel a little bit worse for wear, because it still costed you credits at the end of the day to even get that kill. Columbia College take their second as anticipated, and TMU Blue will full commit to this round as expected. And though you're going to make sure pretty much everybody has full rifle, because they dropped nearly no weapons out of Columbia College's hands, and the SMGs can, you know, rip through a player fairly quickly, but the more armor you have, the less likely it'll be that they'll take you down first. Even if you have to buy a Bulldog, I think it's better than going soft armor for sure with that Vandal. TMU feel the same way. They're going to rush in towards the courtyard side. Fight is early for Columbia College. They want to close the distance with those SMGs, and unfortunately, the rifles are coming out with the upper hand. Decay with a twofer. Another one off screen. Germsy caught off guard from Stallion with the Bulldog working in towards that alley side towards courtyard, and it leaves just one player by their lonesome for Columbia College with like 3 HP to their name. This seems like a lost cause as TMU rush to the B site to plant.
A lot of real estate already won by them, surprisingly enough, but even you're in a round where you already had the natural advantage in terms of the gunnery, so can't really freak out too much about this. Got to take the small wins where you can, work out what you're doing, what you're working with, and how this round's going to go ahead and surmount to the next one. But even then, better yet, there's always a chance. Legends with 6 health, a Bulldog to work with, prowling around the map, no pun intended, and just looking to see who can kind of overextend here, because you're looking back towards B main. You know that somebody's more than likely going to be holding that angle, which they already are. It's going to be Astra kind of looking back towards that center stage. And I mean, you know that all the corners are checked. You just want to die to this spike. You want to lose your life. You want to make sure to have that extra money for the next round and just kind of stay on the same exact note as the rest of your team, as you already hear the rest of the players exiting towards that defensive side of the map and just kind of getting out and looking for the next one. So 6-9 on the board. That'll be good looks here for TMU, keeping themselves relevant. But quite frankly, Columbia College winning those first 2 rounds, I think, didn't solidify them a win, but it made it a hell of a lot look more feasible.
It at least shows that they can get going forward. They can start to get momentum. That was the big thing that plagued TMU in the first half, when they were just failing round after round, giving up a big 5 spree to the Columbia College side. They needed a victory to their name. They needed something to get themselves back into it. And a big round like that, where they also were able to stay alive, keep well coordinated the final few moments in that post plant, making sure Columbia College couldn't squeak a few kills in the end there from Legend. It's just very important for the mental overall for TMU, which seemingly is weak. Predzero, big boost up to get to a higher point of advantage and elevation, trying to keep TMU at bay. Huns will keep and clear away the haunt, though has assistance from their flank to also do the exact same thing. Prezi will drop up off the high ground, moving over in towards A lobby, and Columbia College are playing very aggressive on this A side. And meanwhile, look at B, where TMU were having to play on the aggressive in that first half. It's the total opposite story. They're holding back with that Cypher, letting that hold the site all by its lonesome. Otherwise, it is an A side strongholds from Columbia, and it only gets them a 1-for-1 trade in the first engagement.
Even then, a little bit of extra damage going ahead and being tacked on the likes of your Rays here. So, I mean, even then, if there's anybody that can go ahead and have somewhat of an emphasis or an influence inside of a round, without actually being present. It's raised with all the explosions at their disposal. So, I mean, you can't really forget too much about that. If you are pushing the A side, going for that default plant right behind that crate, it's an easy nade to be thrown and find some relative success. But now that's out of the case, and even then, you know, the utilities being funneled over towards this A side, you can make a definitive call to say, look, we need the Cypher over here. We got to have this presence here. We got to have this backup. And even then, Legend already go ahead and cutting players off. Wow. You know, that's easy collapses and kills surmounting on the side for the defenders for Columbia to look like they're going to find their tent.
This is a huge round for Columbia College to take a win as well defensively. If Fives can manage to pull out a comeback here and win this 1v2, they have the advantage of being able to place down the spike that at least forces Columbia College towards them. But the Fade utility traps them in the corner. They know for a fact they're there now, and it is just easy pickings for the Columbia College side to close and secure that final kill to get them up to double digits. And Dallas, the checkpoint or chokehold, got it right this time in terms of order that we always talk about, double-digit margin. And to make matters worse, TMU Blue, after a round win, taking a loss, the eco can start to get a little bit dicey, and Huns specifically is the player that is facing that problem. They had the least amount of credits on their team. Typically, you expect the Chamber to be the most credit-savvy agent on your roster. Not working out for Huns just yet. Trying to go a bit too heavy in the paint, maybe. And they'll have to go in with no armor and a Marshall in this round while the rest of the team comes up with rifles and armor.
Yeah, another good round on the way there from Columbia College. Nice execution showing that even then, I mean, they're not the best in the world when it comes down to this map. Not warranting any 13-0s here, but even if they do win this game, you can kind of go ahead and get an inkling of an idea and kind of get that early emphasis to know that, I mean, they're kind of gunning for it. So, good looks for them thus far. Once again, kind of putting TMU on the backhand, but even then, Predzu, this is that gun that can really wake up a match and can wake up some players to say, look, you need to check every corner. You got to be ready for whatever runs at you. Because the Judge, quite frankly, we see what it can do, and we're just going to keep on doing.
Great success defensively for Columbia College despite the difference in distance. And now Predzu's in a pretty rough spot. Sean cutting down their only teammate, working from that side of Legend. Predzu gets spotted, but still comes away with the 1-for-1 that makes the job of your breach elsewhere so much more manageable. And Germsy wade their way through this reckoning, knowing they can't stand still too soon. They'll just move up to the gates of B made and cut down Decay's point of entry. That may just bury the chances of TMU's recovery in this map at all, Dallas. So they're coming in on possibly the last buy they could go for before this big save, which would put Columbia College up to match point.
Yeah, I mean, find themselves another one. We talk about the checkpoint chokehold kind of situation. Even then, already going ahead and looking for that own element of surprise to be introduced in terms of a round, which you would typically expect to be a buy. It's a good little kind of curveball to be thrown in there from Columbia College. That Judge, it's always going to have some presence. It's always going to be influential. It's also going to be disgusting at really any stage of the game. So knowing that, especially having a raise, that's another potential we didn't talk about too much. On Bind, that's the main duo right there. Is a Raze and a Judge. Raze doesn't even need a team, just needs that particular gun to work with. But now, employing that in a round that's so critical. We talk about the checkpoint chokehold situation. Employing that then, when the situation is most dire, when you set that tempo for the game and you go ahead and cross that line, that's the perfect place to do it before you go right back into form, because now they're going to be on their toes, not only because of that extra gun that's been introduced, but also because of the added matter that, well, they're already in the final countdown and they're 1 out of 3.
Legend knocking down the third player for the side of TMU Blue in the utility to funnel them out. What a shot from Fives, though. So at this point in time, a lot more will need to come to your team's favor, and that will fall very short. The moment you find any success, Columbia College are quick to punish you. And we're now already at a match point right now for Columbia College on the map of Sunset. Their map pick, might I add, though. And it looks like they very well could go 13-6, because look at the stat line for TMU Blue. They're coming into this round as well. And the bigger question, Huns obviously be able to buy. They had to save up 2 rounds prior than everybody else, but you've got Decay that can't even buy full armor. They need the rest of their utility. They only have 2 ultimates to work with, and their ultimates, how much are they truly going to do? The Nightfall to do that. You can use the Cosmic Divide to close in sightlines, but you've got to decide which objective you want to go to first and foremost. And TMU Blue rushing into Courtyard, but leaving Spike behind doesn't spell very good in my mind that they are fully committed to this B site, despite the fact the team is rushing over towards Market.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of indecisiveness coming out from TMU, considering, I mean, we're kind of sitting in the mid stages of a round. You're looking to flex around the map, see what presence you can really find here, but already, I mean, Columbia College surmounting themselves on the map point. It's really what all this comes down to. You're at 3 players on that final countdown. I'm expecting a little bit of closure here because every single corner seems to be checked.
It's a 5v2. Stallion able to scrape away one, but their teammate of Decay does not have the same luxury. You got to pull out an ace here, Stallion, if you want a chance in this round. If you want a chance in this map, actually, that's what I'll say. You lose here, you're moving on into your map pick, yes, but you're moving on into the next map, and all mistakes you've made here will be all for naught. All chances you've created will have been for nothing. 2 players over towards Market Door. Stallion does not see Carnage in the initial swing. That's good for the side of Columbia College, because that just leaves Predzu with the operator. CC, at least, I think it was on Bind where we saw Phoenix. It's hard pressed to find a map where Phoenix even fits in. I would say Haven is a little bit better because when you execute onto a site for retake defensively, the wall is exceptionally strong. That's also why you typically bring Neon for this map as well to get into sight fairly quickly. That's the big problem with Phoenix. Despite having a wall, despite having flashes, they don't have the mobility that all the other duelist agents have for that entry, so it's hard to find as much opportunities in space for them. But maybe TMU are just really trying to get the defensive edge first, and it's working a little bit, though not off the hands of your Phoenix. It's instead of the hands of the KJ up on top of platformers. The rush in towards that C site for Columbia falls short, and they will take a very hasty step back towards B and A because they just didn't like what they saw in C.
Get to see the same early aggression come out here on Haven. Knowing this map, you gotta take a site with some pressure. You can't just kind of have it handed over. You can't split around the map. You can't look for these flanks. You gotta squeeze in these nooks and crannies and kind of find yourself something and read everything. This map is marginally longer than Sunset, marginally larger just in general, but knowing that even then, you have a lot of inklings of what could go on here, and finally ending up on B. It's a good read. Problem is, a little bit of discipline's like there, but the likes of old Sean looking to go ahead. I think he could have found yourself a second one regardless, but go ahead and pop an off breach isn't too bad. He's just not going to really provide too much there for a post plan.
Here's a 4v3. A double lineup was made by TMU on the retake. You thought maybe there was a chance for Legend to pick up something for themselves, but it is anything but. TMU off the hands of Stallion with a 2K and Sean as well with the first hold on C and the one inside B main. It's good enough for a round win, and that's all they're really asking for in this pistol round. Columbia College will fall short on 2 different objectives. They've now pressured the early attempt on C that was shut down by Sean Platt, and the rush in towards B that was shut down by Stallion and Decay on that rotate in from that A-link side. Very hard to hold on to the B objective, especially when you don't have very much utility and you don't have very good weapons because everyone is rocking a pistol.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm a little shocked. We either always see A or C, but I mean, going ahead and kind of looking at that first tick towards B, it's a little wild to say the least. But even then, I mean, it obviously didn't work out, so I don't think we're ever going to see it again. Just because the teams are already scared, and now they got a bigger reason to be scared because somebody let them try it and didn't really work out too much. These teams are watching each other. They're taking lessons from each other, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't so they can employ it in their own right. But already starting things off on the defense, one more TMU. They are now going ahead completely perfect when it comes around to those initial round ones of each map. Looking for the adaptability on the attacking side, and better yet, even then able to kind of go ahead and capitalize. But starting on the defense for both ends of the spectrum, it's looking good for them to kind of actually hold on to these sites and know what they're dishing out. So knowing that they find themselves an early pick, or at least a little good bit of early damage, they know that they're even then kind of cutting off and slowing these players in their track. Even though it's a breach that you went ahead and ticked off, you're still saying that, well, that's technically one less player to worry about, because for the retake, when you get these specters in hands and you're pushing these corners, that guy's only going to need one bullet to go down.
Huns watching down long. We know that they held long just last round. They were very slow to rotate in through A link when the rotate to B did come through, and they also didn't move towards C when the rest of the team did, kind of expecting that Columbia weren't fully attempting to that objective. Wise decisions. Forced away from A long, though, and you got to fall back towards site. You still have a huge ramp to look down upon, and Columbia College are very aware of that, and they are taking a lot of damage on this approach. 3 players below 50 HP, a combined maybe 75 between the 3 of them, and they step into sight, and they are being completely slaughtered by TMU's side. 1 kill successfully. It was Decay. Yes, that stinks. Ruh-roh, Raggy. But it's not going to be enough. TMU Blue will keep 4 players alive, keep a very dominating round 2. And Columbia College, they're going to have to think twice about how they push in, because now A has failed, yes, on an eco round. But B and C have not looked very good either, considering TMU's positions. How do you talk about round 3?
Well, first thing you're going to be starting off with, obviously, is going to be, oh, what guns are we working with? And I think there's going to be a lot more potential there, considering that here for Columbia College, they got all the guns to work with. Sure, you're seeing a trade off with the players that bought the sheriffs and they're having to go for the half armor or a guardian somewhere, but I mean, still, it's the same old, same old. It's what you're expecting. Hits heavier. You can kind of take those longer ranges, and that's kind of why I'm surprised in a scenario like this, even after kind of the range favoritism going to the side of the attackers, we're still seeing a push come out towards this A side of the map, where quite frankly, if there's anywhere team you could do it to win a round like this would be A or B. It's a lot more close, easier shots to be made. The Bulldog feels almost like a Phantom to a certain degree. But speaking of Phantom, this is where those players have to start to really showcase themselves, because I mean, you're closing in on those corners, you're clearing sights, and then you're never really extending yourself past that point of saying, I'm not going to be in that one-shot threshold anymore.
Utility starting to be burned out into this A side. Cubby play for Decay. They weren't expected to live very long in the first place. Only a sheriff to their name. A good play from Legend and Predzu to secure those picks. It leaves just 2 now left for TMU Blue. The Marshal expected to still be in Hoon's hands. Hoons has a lot to work with. They'll trade out towards Stallion, and they'll put Hoons up towards Heaven, up above, first and foremost. Do they know Calvin's waiting up on box? And they know their Jets right below? They'll have to see. They go ahead and send the Paranoia to hell. This is a good idea, Dallas, but unfortunately, Columbia College saw through it and didn't put anyone down below there, and instead left them up on Cubby corner on top of box and 1 down below. Very smart decision, a great idea, and it pays dividends for Columbia College as they skid through their 3rd round as expected, only losing a single rifle. And they can just buy that back up, and their whole team will be ready to go into round 5.
I mean, you got to give credit where it's due there. I mean, even in the idea of that execution for the retake, you see it kind of going ahead and covering that graffiti, that corner, and even then, you know that the 2 players, you have one under Heaven, and then you have one on that box. You're double dishing out. They're going ahead and covering those same exact angles, but better yet, even then, at that point, it seems like they were holding steady with what they wanted to hold there. You didn't see any deviation that crosshair, go back to that corner, expecting somebody to swing for main. You still knew that somebody's having, and there's no way they're able to actually execute off that, it being a Paranoia. So, I mean, just an outstanding read for actually holding onto your angles, understanding the environment in front of you, and making sure to stick to your guns. And if it worked out that well one time, why not double it and pass it on? Let's go ahead and see what we can do here in the next.
Great first blood opening up for Columbia College. Germsy taking the route in through shorts. And if you can continue to find success in the ASA, why not keep driving the point home? But they'll test the waters elsewhere, move in over towards Garage, and while they get a first blood over that side for the favor of TMU, it's only a KJ. No ultimate is available. They don't necessarily need it for the post plant. They'll sit back farther towards C long and hold in a good position with the rifles they still have in their favor, but they still need control of Garage. They don't want that tertiary angle in through Hall to be able to cut down the approach. Working in, Nano Swarm to burn away Util Shock Darts as well towards Decay. Decay has had a rough go of it, thankfully opening up in this round to get a good blood for themselves in the run it back means they can continuously be in the action. If it wasn't
Not
for
even
Jersey,
ready for it.
what a huge runaround and a big lap made for Columbia College, and that may give them the best odds in this series to take this round, and it will, tying things up 2-2, getting their 2 in a row they were asking for, and taking TMU's much needed bye they take in round 4 and throwing it to the wayside.
On both of these rifle rounds as well, pretty consistently, I'd say. I mean, sure, it took a hero play in that last one to go ahead and kind of get yourself that trade, play the numbers, go 2 for 1 there, right, as a singular individual. But even then, you got to consider that, well, that hold towards sight on that pressure, they already had main advantage to work with anyway. So that was just kind of working more towards equilibrium is what we're really expecting there. So, I mean, to know that even then, those are some early tells here from TMU once again. Is this going to be another map, another scenario? We see them on the defense side and not really work too well for covering these angles, not covering every single corner, not meeting those expectations and leaving these holes to slip through over and over again, because as we mentioned on Sunset, it was a very popular topic from the squad and kind of a variable it seemed that, I don't know, it's not really consistent, but even that doesn't really work. So I'm not really sure where the formula came from or what they were cooking up or what their end result was trying to be. But already a lot of questions starting to surmise once again to say, are we going to let this same deviation happen? Are we still going to let these same kind of aired out sections of the map be a lot more prominent and actually consistent on a round-to-round basis where they get accustomed to actually pushing those?
Sometimes the formula just needs to be stuck to, Dallas. Take Starfield, for example, but we won't harp on that for too long. Everyone's got differing opinions. TMU, they play pretty steady on the defense, knowing they got the weaker weapons. The issue is Decay played very far up and got punished by very poor timing. How was ready with the flash around the corner, the curveball, and unfortunately didn't come away with it. They've got to swing around this corner successfully. Huns gets their one. Fives does go down, but the rendezvous gets them away from the danger and back over towards that B-Link side, where they can now play in for a post plant with the Omen up inside heaven. Stallion has a good shot here to maybe take down a player rotating away from the objective, but they would have put 2 up top instead. This could be a big mistake if it wasn't for Sean on the run around. Stallion, big ups. Sean with a second, and it's done with Sean's backhand to Calvin's head. 3 rounds now to the name of TMU, and a huge recovery in an eco round.
That one kill just set an expectation, clearing the back of the map, going ahead, cutting things off. You know that player there towards Radiant Knight is now covered, and everybody else, you're going to be checking backside. Don't even worry about that front end anymore because they're not going to hold these angles. I would have been exchanged off already. So good stance there from TMU, a good execution there to go ahead and work off their numbers and even then kind of have those ideas of where the picks are being taken and what corners should and shouldn't be checked as a result. So knowing that even then going to the next round, they're now starting to possibly hit their form once more. Hunza on that operator once again, more than likely probably going to be a little more comfortable, I'd say, on this map with that gun, knowing the lineups are going to be a lot more definitive because, well, they've been around for a heck of a lot longer. And even then more so what's really, you know, in terms of potential available here for actually having these guns and what's possible for retake, because you're not relying on a headhunter anymore. You're not concerned about players kind of overextending to look for those early picks, and even then with Fives getting the earliest pick of this round, the first one better yet, as a random spray through a smoke, it already looks pretty darn good.
Predzu up top, inside B, hunting for a point of control for Columbia College, and it is falling apart. Taken down with an operator shot from Hun, Sean with an Nano Swarm kill, and it's Columbia College trying to figure out what can and can't work. Carnage in through Garage, last one there, able to take down Huns, but can't deal with Fives, who just pre-fires the angle. They know they're coming from there. The call-out's made swiftly. And TMU, communication-wise, positioning-wise, and retake-wise, are starting to show Columbia College what they're made of as they'll climb up to 4.
Another round underway. TMU finally starting to hit their form here, finding themselves that first round, and the second one to back it up. They're starting to kind of fit themselves a little bit of momentum on the defensive side of the map. And we've already seen this accumulate before, keep in mind, on that first map. Same exact manner, I'd say, almost. This is, except for just kind of that one round and a string of 5. Columbia College, I believe, will hit their form eventually, but I mean, they got to do it fast. Considering you're now sitting at 4-2, it's not time to call a timeout just yet, considering you still have a whole nother quarter of the game to go until you even reached at half. But even then, you got to start figuring out what's going on here. And now with these sheriffs, you're looking at Eco, and if you keep on losing these rounds, especially the ones that really start to matter, TMU's going to get heavier and heavier and heavier as a weight to burden. And quite frankly, you need to make sure that you can shut this down pretty darn early. Otherwise, this map's only going to really surmount to having to win 2 more.
Predzu trying to go in quickly with the Blade Storm. Unfortunately, not working out for him. Stallion there, and with the great smoke just decapitating all pressure that's being brought forward by the rest of the team. Johannes Fury didn't come up with anything either. It's hard pressed to find success, and when you try to move in towards Garage, it's cut down from every angle. Just Carnage in a 1v2 tries to get damage to Decay, and it looks like they were tagging them, but clearly not enough. And Gale have no problem closing and securing for their 5th. TMU rise the occasion and deny Columbia College for their last save they had. And that tandem of it looked like 2 in a row they were forced to put together after the 2-round success they had in 3 and 4 and the falling apart they had in 5, 6, and 7. They'll bring up rifles for this one, and I anticipate their same play we saw come out from TMU in their attacking rounds on our last map of Sunset, of leaving the spike behind, checking your angles, trying to get that first blood, and then making a decision about 30 seconds into the round.
Well, this is the last chance right here for Columbia College. You're looking at the likes of the ultimate surrounding on the defensive side. You know the shutdowns are available. You know that there's a lot of resources kind of acclimated and kind of dispersed to these players at TMU. But knowing that right now, TMU running double sentinel. They're supposed to be winning this defense side. They're supposed to hold the map efficiently. They're supposed to go ahead and win out these retakes, because Sentinels have a lot of AoE to work off of. And quite frankly, they're supposed to have that callous of aggression out of that run it back. I really haven't seen any of that stuff used, and still for them to be having a lead is really impressive. I haven't seen very many ultimates being used here by the likes of TMU, except that Tour de Force obviously on an Eco. Five's looking to kind of use it as a shutdown whenever it comes around to a C-hit, as a little bit of a denial, and kind of a staller. But, I mean, the lockdown's the most important thing. That's your get-out-of-jail-free card that a lot of teams really view it as. And for it not to be employed yet. Same thing for run it back. For Phoenix not to kind of feel that aggression and say, you know what, I have enough players who want me to actually push and still to have a lead. Comes out of Columbia College. This is their attacking side. It's not, they're a lot more universal in terms of their composition, but problem is they're still not moving fast enough to really warrant what's available here on the side of TMU. So a good start to go ahead and knock that running back out of the way. That's just really as a sense of intel. Gotta say it's a little odd with that recon dart being available, but still, speaking of aggression, you want to bring that towards garage. You got to look for a split on this retake. With that operator now being employed towards garage, that's a hell of a lot better angle.
Good opportunity for the Columbia College side to hold on to a possible round win, but it's all at the hands of Predzu. 4 kills in this round, and the pressure adds up quickly. Why did TMU Blue choose to commit so quickly? They have to get into the lockdown, and that just forces the hands forward. And Father Time ticks in their favor. Columbia College will get their 3rd round, but despite the win, Dallas, they do not have the luxury that TMU have been sitting in for plenty of credits in their back pockets. They will still have to buy up. They need to match with the quality they brought forward in the previous round, and the credits aren't there for a full purchase. And they will have to seemingly put their best foot forward. I think with the From the Shadows, they could be a little bit cheeky here in this round. Commit to a site, get control of it, then use the From the Shadows to recollect that spike and put onto the site that you've taken control over.
In order for tour de force available in a round like this. Finally, some resources invested in that last round. The running back going underway. Seemingly didn't really accomplish too much, but doesn't really matter in a round like this where you see so much aggression already being employed towards the middle of the map. Finding the results of 2 players thus far. You still have initiating power. You still have some prowess to push yourself onto site. That's why we do see A being taken over. But still, talk about those resources, talk about the AoE, talk about the double sentinel. You're not only going to have yourself a stance for actually holding angles like you see right there in the back of the map with the tour de force coming underway and getting at least 1 kill, but Decay goes ahead and knocks one down as well. And you're seeing that it's just your trapped animal right there in the corner of the bottom. You're going to spray through, you're going to get that cut off, and even then a flawless round coming out from TMU after a round loss for them shows the resilience and what they're really capable of creating inside of this game with this kind of setup they're working with on the defensive side.
You have to be resilient. You have to have the mental to overcome all of the obstacles in your way. And right now, Columbia College, you're being tested in that regard. And TMU are still riding on the wave, the very happiness they've been able to see for themselves. And if you go flawless in good rounds, then it just gets even better. Columbia College are back into an eco. We thought maybe the worst of it was over, and that is most definitely not the case. TMU breaking at least the even margin now at 6. Columbia at half the total tally down at 3. And this very well could turn into a 7-3 very quickly with Columbia College coming in with only Sheriffs and Calvin with a classic, just making sure they have something to their name. This doesn't seem like the greatest chances, but we saw TMU pull out a Thrifty in the previous map, and Columbia on the attack can choose when and how they push into these objectives. They just need to worry about the utility that TMU Blue have already pre-placed. That's a little bit harder to clear without a rifle to spray them.
Yeah, I mean, these Sheriffs obviously going to surmount to a lot. One way is definitely going to kind of work some wonders there as well. But even then, it's these kind of scenarios, man, where it's just like, ugh, it's not even, it doesn't even come down to the spray through there. Just taking very, very awkward fights. You're expecting them, I mean, even then, barely pin out to your favor. And as you mentioned, that spray, having, 10 bullets go out within 2 seconds, a hell of a lot better than the likes of 3. So, already good lookings there. TMU expected, once again, as we talk about, to win these rounds. This is the wake-up opportunity here for Columbia College, their last available buyer for this entire half. So it makes sense that they make a very, very clean adjustment and say, look, we need to take the timeout here, because it's use it or lose it territory, and this game is very much still within your grasp. Still a lot of potential here from these squads and what they can really do. And 7-5, keep in mind, really just doesn't mean anything. Not the biggest deal in the world. That's just a pistol round loss, and even then, quite frankly, that's what it comes down to. TMU won the pistol rounds. That's that copium you can really rely on. So already 30 seconds in, you're starting to say, what do we got to work with? How can we play this out? What site do we want to hit? A lot of questions being asked, but IGL answers all those immediately. They're supposed to be looking at that and assessing the situation, that the entirety of the game. You're at a point now where you're saying, what has worked for us? And quite frankly, every single round that's worked out for Columbia College has been off the back of a hero play. A 2K, a 3K coming in from a player kind of wrapping in through a weird cranny somewhere and just kind of getting the blind side on these guys. Look at the wraparound through B at a breach, able to find that 2K one round. Let's look at Predzu and that hero play, the 2K, the double down that we saw in that post-plant scenario. That's 2 of your 3 rounds already. The third one is just basically one off the back of saying we have gun advantage. You need to figure out what post plant work better. And I think, quite frankly, knowing that you have more attacking prowess, you got to cut these Sentinels off by surprise and make sure to get a lot more aggression off the back of actually taking a site rather than just holding things down, because the post plant has not been that great.
We could be seeing a TMU that's really just good on the defense. There's something that they did fairly well on against Columbia College on the first map, considering how the attacking sideline went for them, all things considered. And, I mean, their agent selection could be indicative of the fact they like the defense there as well. The Phoenix, DK hasn't had the best of game, to be fair. The Phoenix doesn't have that mobility that you're really asking for as a duelist, and Columbia College have had the Jet, and it's been kind of the opposite. They haven't really been able to step up. They had Preds who had that one big round. They got the 4K and kind of saved day, saved graces for Columbia College. TMU won't really have the same luxury when it comes to their attack. Maybe they just flips over. Maybe this will just end up being a very defensive favored Haven. That could be the coping mechanism Columbia College are really trying to rely on here, Dallas. The answer will have to be waited on for at least a couple more rounds as TMU Blue look at this one with another possible win under their belt. Paranoia around the corner. Huns able to scrape away Legend 5s in a 1v1, but can't do it in time, leaving Carnage good for 2, make it 3. An ace will be required of them, and they may just have the chance to punch that ticket as Sean in the 1v1 denies it. Thank goodness for TMU, as Carnage already found 4 in this round. 3 back to back to back, and you had to stop the ace. Good way to get your 8th.
We already talked about it. This last round was going to be the last available round for purchase coming through from the side of TMU, at least to a certain degree of a full buy across the board. Obviously, you see Calvin lacking a little bit of resources there, being the top of the board for the side of Columbia College, and everybody else kind of taking their own deeming sacrifice to a certain degree or another. But even then, looking at the score on the board, you mentioned that speed for Phoenix. That's going to have to be employed almost perfectly in that next half, because Phoenix pushing on the defensive side hasn't been the hottest thing in the game, no pun intended. You need to kind of look at the angles, the kind of utility that's working with. That's why we see Jets and Skies all the time. That speed of the utility combined with that speed of the actual player rushing in, there's no reaction. Even then, once again, another thing that doesn't require much reaction is Beam Chamber. Hit that first shot, go ahead and TP it, and then it's light work. No reaction. Don't worry about it. Go to the next one and see who you can kind of knock down in the meantime. But already, we're talking about the aggression. We mentioned it already. And even then, this is an anti-eco. This is the last round. Take your chances. This is where you can go ahead and really establish your dominance and say, I'm going to push you all the way into the attacking spawn because of how many kills we surmounted. Then let's just go ahead and call this thing wraps.
Yeah, and this round looks to already be over and done. Columbia College with 2 players left make that 1. Decay, the best round I think we've seen from them so far when it comes to an individual. They've getting their 1s and getting their 2s in smaller rounds, but getting a 3K like this one here right towards the end when you're now needing to step into a little bit more of an important role, I would say, on the attack, where your role as a duelist to get into that space, having to rely and trust on your initiators to put you there safely, is so much more overpowering as a person with that role. They need the confidence boost in those final few rounds, and I think Decay steps up to the plate very well. They'll pick up a Frenzy for this second half to start off on the attack, and that's the weapon you really want when you're closing that space, and need the extra firepower for that burst of energy and the burst of couple shots going downfield, downrange. Columbia College, yeah, you're looking at a 9-3 where you have to pull out a 9-3 curse, and it's on a map that TMU Blue will know because it's Haven. You should know, and obviously haven't been showcasing that, and this is just a very difficult map to make that comeback.
It's also TMU selection, so as we talked about, it's kind of expected from at this point to say, look, you better know it, you need to know it, and quite frankly, they proved it at least on the defensive side of the map. That's where they had the double sentinel, kind of setting things up for them, but now you're not in that circumstance anymore. You have Columbia College kind of playing that more standardized approach. They're going to be looking for flanks a lot more commonly, and even you can already see it being employed back towards their attacking side spawn. 2 players pushing through, not even giving Hunza the chance to even nail a shot there. That's really unfortunate that you're going to be blindsiding somebody, but even then, knowing the lap rounds coming in, you go for a full frontal assault. You got to look for that pitch because people are looking on the flank. You have that dart out, but nobody's immediately ready to really follow up on it, but it doesn't matter too much just yet. You checked every single corner. You know everybody's in the post plant. You need to be spraying that spike if the Nanostorms didn't already go off. So it's good looking for them to go at least and hold things down, but you got to press that defense button immediately and make sure you got a lot of manpower to cover you, and that's exactly what Columbia is starting up.
This is the round they need to put themselves on the board 100% concretely. They're just kind of feeding Sean at this point. Kills consecutively that was not necessary whatsoever. And he just kind of gave them a few too many ult pips, in my opinion, especially for an attacker that hasn't, you're not really too worried about them. They're going to play farther behind the front line. but Sean's importance cannot be understated with that lockdown to keep you off of site, deny the chance for a retake. We saw how important it was for Columbia College and one of their wins we saw come out for them. Very much so denied. Of course, it came at the hands of Predzu doing such a wonderful job for that, but who cares? You know how important that lockdown can be. Feeding that a bit too early just seems like a big lost cause. Hunter out for Huns almost. But Predzu will survive. Does not thrive, though. No equal trade in the process to get that one up. And TMU Blue will say, okay, maybe A long isn't the best option for us. Let's put players in courtyard. Let's start to pressure towards garage, where we're only noticing a turret placed over towards hall and no one actually inside window nor behind crates.
You know somebody's going to be there, though. I mean, that's not even really a question. You know somebody's going to be setting up, but even more so, I want to kind of see the same employment of strategies. We saw the first 2 rounds being duplicated for both sides of the attackers. Lose that first round. Go ahead and default towards the middle of the map for the second one. I swear if we see 2 B plants to start things off for both sides of the map, it's going to be absolutely insanity. But already it's because we're seeing an idea start to surmount here towards the middle of the map. You're looking at courtyard. You're trying to expect and kind of figure out what's going on in terms of how players are spread out. But quite frankly, I think honestly you go for a 4-1 split. One player to go ahead and deviate that attention towards the C. And then you go for the actual push, legitimate play in that B area. Look for the close quarters. Work with the sheriffs in hand. Work with what kind of got you here, but even then, already good exchange to be made, and that's the best chance the TMU is going to have here in a round like this.
Spectres can really close out a good pressure from opposition. You have to cut down 3. Good for 2 of it. The teammate behind is expected to pick up the slack, and they do so quite well. Predzu, that's a dangerous 1v1 to peek against. If you miss the first shot and you miss the second, by that point, the Spectre should have killed you despite the distance there. Thankfully, they get away with the second shot to connect, and Columbia College will climb ever closer. It goes from a 9-3 to a 5-9, which is much more manageable, just 4 rounds between you. But the rifles will come out for TMU Dallas, and you lost 3 of your 5 weapons you brought in the previous round. I think you just run it down courtyard. You just play for that, and I think that's exactly what Columbia are going to do. The same thing they did in the previous map with Sunset.
Which is absolutely wild. I already talked about it. Look for the close quarters. We're your favorite for these fights, and even more so. You got the rifles now. C-site looks a lot more doable, but you're looking to kind of push this pressure towards mid and try to meet them in the fight. I understand the early picks. Nobody is going to really go for it, so you're going to allocate yourself towards other areas of the map. A-site still a little bit more questionable. Even then, you know a lot of players are there towards the B site, so you know that garage could be an easy push if you do go ahead and take that war of attrition and really get the hand to play off of. But still, there, you're exchanging, you're shifting, you're starting to transition a little bit and look for somewhere else to really bring your talent. And already when you're seeing this push come out so far, Prez was able to go ahead and surmount a kill. You go ahead and throw a cloud burst down, you pick that gun up, and you go ahead and just run it on to the next one. But they're not going to let that opportunity to happen, but a spray down could very much give you the result you need because Columbia College still has the numbers advantage.
Yeah, this is huge. They've even kept the 2 for TMU off and away from the objective for the most part. They're still strapped and trapped over towards that short side. And they have a lonesome player on the other end just waiting for the opportunity to rotate. Once the call-out's made 100%, they're coming into sight.
Wait.
But Legend gets there. One. Huns is
KJ,
down in
you
5.
have to move.
KJ has to sprint. I'm not sure why they've been waiting so long, but it may be too dangerous.
Doesn't matter.
Fies tries to run away. They try to get the heck out of dodge, Dallas, and the second they turn, COD timing, VAL timing, R6 timing, every esport timing has a name for it, but it plagues Fives and nets a round win, a major one for Columbia College to get 6 and make a huge win out of nothing.
Well, you know, we always say 9-3 curse and never really expected to pan out, but 3-0 start's a pretty damn good look. If it's really going to come to life there. That's always like to say, you know, double-digit checkpoint chokehold. You find the third, you follow up, and then at that point, it's just a strand of rounds and the rifles are accumulated once again. But that's not the case here. They are completely cutting out a middleman. Columbia College finding themselves a third immediately, looking for the equilibrium as fast as they can, and already finding themselves, once again, with rifles in hand, closure to these rounds, and an advantage to work off of once more. Columbia College, they have to find these holes. If they find these rounds working out for them, keep in mind, TMU, they're already a lack of resources for actual attacking sides of the map with this double sentinel. They're expecting post plants, they're expecting land, they're expecting real estate, that war of attrition to go into their favor right off the get-go for a map. This slow and steady kind of gameplay does not work for them with this current setup. Sure, They can prove me wrong at some point, but I said that their defensive side was going to be where a lot of their strengths were going to come from, and their attacking was still going to be very, very questionable. Now that we're here, 3-0 start sure as heck isn't what you want.
Yeah, it's... You have to think twice about every scenario you make now for your TMU Blue. You got to get the spike down. It's just extra credits. It's like an icing on the cake scenario. And a post plant is much more manageable in this scenario where you have utility in the back line. Aljoan comes out for Legend up inside heaven, able to spot 2 players in from the back line. Predzu, though, cuts down 1. Crossfire from Sean towards short. They're making something out of nothing, like we saw come out from Columbia previously, but it's... Why use the lockdown here? I like the idea, don't get me wrong, but you had nothing in the first place. So just take the success from the credits, get some weapons dropped in Columbia's hands, and work from there. And now you don't have an ultimate. You lost every single player, and you only got 200 credits apiece to save for it.
No way, the teammates are not. I'm sure somebody's questioning Sean, but quite frankly, being your top fragger right now from the defensive side of the map, you do not burn out that guy's flame.
Yeah,
otherwise, you literally have no chance. You just say, "Hey, unlucky." That was timing.
Good idea. Good
from
idea.
4 players. Good answer. Good answer. But I mean, still, you just got to work with what's given to you a little bit. As we said, questionable at the end of the day, but regardless, though. I mean, the entire circumstance of the side of the map, as we said, is a little bit questionable. I was already kind of wondering about how much potential is going to be brought out from TMU, how that was going to work out for him, because that's why the Sky and the Jet, as I mentioned, work together. The Phoenix Sova synergy isn't really all that great, and consider that you don't really have that synergy of, like, kind of where you're looking. But hey, this is the directions there this time. Decay looking towards the spawn of the defenders, looking to push more and more and more. Take that land and find that definitive lead of numbers as fast as possible. So going ahead and securing that's a good look for him, but Carnage immediately finding a trade there, it seems like nothing really matters.
Speed from TMU Blue seems to be the name of the game on this push in towards the B site. Predzu around the corner has the shorty in the back pocket, gets away with one for one.
Oh my God!
Columbia College, it's just Sean in a 1v2. Predzu up above, just needs pertinent information. Sean has no idea, neither do Columbia College. Almost lines him up. But Carnage, who opens and ends this round for Columbia College, keeps them in, denies the 10th, and is 1 round away from Columbia College tying up TMU despite the 9-3 deficit at halftime.
It's not even the fact that you've had like a chance at this point. Like you've gotten in post plants, but I mean, it just feels like there's too many problems that you're having to look for the solutions for simultaneously. You can't reach the post plant initially. What do? You got to allocate all your time in between rounds to even catch up to a point to say, look, now we can actually defend a post plant. Then you get around to a point where you can't even defend that post plant you worked so many rounds to surmount. It's at a point where you're saying, good God, how much time do we need to get this together? And I don't know. You got a minute right here, and that's about all you got left, quite frankly. No timeouts remaining after this. You're going to be sitting in eco at this point. This is the last round to give yourself a stance of defense on the attacking side, at least for your stance and score. And everything past there, mental shatter. Like glass at that point, scattered among the floor of your skull, because there's just like at a point where you're saying, if we do ever figure this out, the game will probably be over by then. So this is a now or never, a make it or break it type of round here, because if you look at that tie scenario, it really just comes down to how many ultimates that TMU has surmounted there, and even then, better yet, if enough players actually live to use them during every stage of the round to kind of just guarantee themselves one more. But then you're looking at 10, and well, we know how double digits go. It's another chokehold kind of scenario for a lot of these squads, and that's where they like to make those investments.
When you're so down on your luck, it seems, despite Sean doing everything possible to keep the team alive, and you have to make very rough decisions, very difficult decisions, the tough decisions, Dallas, buying up after a round like that, trying to commit, playing smart, it's just seems an impossibility, and Germany makes it even worse. Why is your breach walking down middle courtyard? TMU doesn't know, and they pay the price. Caught out by the Aljoan. Yeah, you already had 2 players in their sightlines. What's done is done. And now you've got a player disadvantage in a very rough spot as you have Spike waiting in courtyard. You moved up Huns to the position up close and personal, but they already have no armor and 45 HP to their name. You're praying that they make a mistake for Columbia College. And on the defense, I'm going to be honest here, Dallas, it doesn't seem like they're making very many mistakes. So you are relying on an impossibility or an extremely low probability, all things considered, as they now walk over to Predzu with the operator holding A long in a dangerous spot. But you're a Jets, and you have the tailwind, and they're getting out too. They did not like what they saw at A long. The jump peak gave them just enough, and down goes Huns, who was waiting in B.
I love these solutions teams are coming up with on these defensive side timeouts that are given to them by the attacking side. Saying, well, what do? Run it down. Screw it. Just run at them. Don't let them create the game plan they want to. They're going to overthink it on the timeout. They're mentally shattered. They're trying to figure out what's going on here. Their mind is in an absolute whirlwind, and they're just spending time to kind of ground themselves and find a game plan to execute in the next round. Just run at them. They're not going to expect the push. They think we're going to respect it. But Columbia College, they're not the double sentinel like you are. They're not going to sit in the back of the map and just kind of respect those boundaries. They're going to look to break them down. They're going to look for the nearest wall to just tear apart and look to go towards next. And quite frankly, those walls, every single one of them have been around by round by round, and it feels like they've busted through every single one of them so far, with even so far suffering a scratch, as they've surmounted every single one flawlessly so far. And again, Predzu, opening pick over again, bringing the fight to them as an anti-eco. A start like that really sets a tone, and better yet, a Rolling Thunder slows it down on the attacking side as well. But still, a kill surmounted here for 5, so go ahead and find somewhat of a compensation.
Honestly, that was a gorgeous play from Columbia College. Predzu, big mistake tailwinding forward. It happens to the best of us, I guess. They do manage to escape. The Rolling Thunder through garage, though, was beautiful from Columbia College. It just didn't add anything to the cable.
Good night.
But Predzu lines up Huns and Sean, and down they both go in one single shot. Same thing can be said, though, for Predzu, who falls to Stallion. A mini game of duck hunt, though they weren't falling that high up. It's just enough to get the aim off guard, and the sheriff will collect where needed. 5s down in towards sight, escapes out of the smoke. Down goes Calvin Legend, and a 1v2 taking damage through a crate, has to escape, can't do so safely, and will use the ultimate to the backside of defender spawn, where they either could wait or play for the A site. But if you're playing for A, why don't you just go to A? Were they not sure what the second player was? 2 shots from disposing angles. Should have told you they were both there. But I guess it's not enough. And they'll play for the A site in this hold, and you still don't have a proper weapon. And they get their one. Owl drone over the top. Carnage, why are you swinging through this? Round the corner, spotted Stallion! Gets the 10th for TMU! After a huge misplay by Columbia College. Overextension from Carnage without the Owl drone having any pertinent information yet.
You knew he was on the other side of that crate. You saw the arm on the side. That's still kind of questionable. We never know, especially when it's that thin of margins, but still. You're in a scenario, you let the spike tick down, have an owl, have a recon dart, and have both of them just flood information. Create a priority of targets. Force that player to be in a just moment of chaos where they have to make a decision on the fly. And it felt like when you line those things up, it's just drone, player, dart, player. Just one, the other, kind of back and forth, but still. No real flood of information going through there. No real assistance to kind of help you in the meantime.
Decay with the running back. Really just a point of information for them. Nothing really coming out of it. It's unfortunate to say for TMU. But Spike could have gone down on B, but it'll be a full rotate through Link instead. Germsy trying to go for an ego peek into 4. Not sure why you're trying to do so, but the whole team of Columbia College are falling apart in this round. And the huge success they had has already shown glimpses of being over. It wasn't for Calvin. Working in from Hall.
Oh my God!
By themselves. Yes, gets cut down from Decay, but Carnage has the intel. Spikes down on sight. Guy boomerang around the corner, but Carnage, no! Ooh! A second opportunity for Carnage to save graces after their failure in the previous round, and they fail again, giving TMU their 11th.
Oh, you see a flame wall and you just expect, hey, he's not going to peek this raw, right? Right. He's going to flash it. And the fact you're looking at it, already kind of losing that fight a little bit. But at the end of the day, doesn't matter too much. TMU, they were bound to wake up eventually, hopefully. And all it took was, 2 clutches. All it takes is a little bit of hero plays here and there. Calvin found his own in that last round. Problem is, it was off the back of already a couple players being lost. So it just really, your entire efforts did nothing but just find equilibrium, which really you're not hoping for. Good start here, though, already coming up from the attacking side again. Good information. Hunter's Fear to follow up. Looking at denial, but Jersey's able to go ahead and get 2 and just hold down this entire C side. This player could be the one to really keep this thing alive.
This is a big round for Jersey. After the big failure they had the previous one, where all at Columbia College just couldn't hold out in the link to A. They needed them to step up here, and Jersey does so for 3. Sean, though,
I swear to God,
was so good. Jersey did all this for nothing it may just be. Thankfully, Sean turns the other way, and Legend will clean up house for Columbia College in the last possible bye they could have had if they were to fall short again. And even then, with the win, Dallas, they're still 2 players short of a full positive bye. Legend, you can get a weapon bought for you. Thank you. Buy a weapon for Predzu. They do. Now, all but one will have full rifle and armor. And they have one ultimate, but arguably the weakest ultimate, especially on the defense, you could possibly ask for Columbia College. Legend and Jersey just 1 or 2 or 3 away in Jersey's case from theirs, but that may be too much to ask for.
I'm hating this game to a certain extent, right? I'm just seeing these 1v1s or 1vx's. It doesn't even matter. If it's anything between 1 and 3, it's a complete toss-up over and over again. These players are so consistent in getting these trains of kills that I'm trying to figure out how they're not able to surmount those early on when trying to take a site. And that obviously the victim of that is going to be, you know, it's gonna be that player. It's gonna be the entry. It's gonna be that one, that actual push through, like Jersey, able to go ahead and get those to hold down. Where's that from the attacking side? Where is this pressure? It's just not really accumulating. They will once again kind of reading out this rotation. Good stance for them. We're in a 2v3. I talk about 3 players alive. Lord knows what's happening because nobody looks around them.
Good play from Calvin. The trigger discipline was there. The team has been falling short in a lot of areas. Spike's been moved over to that A side.
Oh, you're done.
1v1 towards Hall, and Sean trying to escape towards the defense. Could not. And it's a 2v1. We've seen this now twice, Dallas.
Yeah, and it's Legend. Legend has to initiate it both times. Please. I have to know if human evolution exists. You need to prove it now.
Calvin spotted first,
wow.
But there it is. 3K Columbia. Save Grace. And it will be an 11-11 score line. That is the second time a From the Shadows has warranted success from TMU. But this time, Columbia deny the objective success and get things tied up again. It is really anyone's game still, Dallas. And that is disgusting to say, considering what we've seen so far here in this series.
It is just absolute insanity. Even then, I'm surprised that Stallion wins it with the Sheriff, loses it with the Phantom. It's just boggling. But even then, the problem here that surmounts, once again, the buys, the economy. Yeah. Even every round that you've won, it's been, we talked about, the hero plays, the 1v3s, 1v2 scenarios like that, meaning that still, 1vx, you got to talk about the 1. You can't talk about the X. 4 players dying in that round. Win or lose doesn't really matter. You're still making sure to buy to a certain degree by the end of it, and you can't really afford that every single round, unless you're surmounting somewhat of an actual momentous string of rounds back-to-back, which we have not seen TMU do just yet. So still, Columbia College, regardless, I think because of their massive string to start things off, they have a definitive upper hand here.
Stallion, Paranoia around the corner into the seaside, does fully tag Carnage, but also the teammates also getting tagged out by the Paranoia for the side of Columbia. Carnage on sight, 2 fur before falling, and the team now closing in quickly. Up and above, Jersey, though, on the ground, keeps the team grounded, and Columbia College will now reach match point and series points in the NECC show match here for the second match of the day in week 5. Columbia College are trying to prove to everyone they can and will take down TMU. And we're looking at another round, Dallas, where TMU can't bring everything to the board. Look at 5s. No one can buy them like we saw Predzu do for Calvin 2 rounds prior for Columbia. TMU will have one player that is just overwhelmingly weaker than the rest.
I think 5s is a pretty good choice on a map like this. I mean, no offense to the guy, but I mean, still as an initiator, especially a recon-based initiator, you already have so much to provide. You're going to be in the back of the map. You're going to be kind of playing that support role anyway, so you're not really too stressed about what you're able to bring in terms of a gunfight. You're behind everyone. You can pick up a gun if somebody dies, but still, first blood is all it comes down to here. Rolling Thunder against a run it back. That's another really big concern. Ultimate's being saved over the course of the game. We saw it from Columbia College in that round earlier on where they kind of used it towards Garage. It's a little bit of actual sake of security for Predzu, but still may not matter at the end of the day. Because it was also read to say, look, it's going to be up again by the point of this actual map point. We're going to have one more to work with. So just go ahead and burn it while you can and try to guarantee any level of a degree of the success that you work with. So good play by them, looking at the long scheme of things. But speaking of long, it's a long that's merely being ignored. 4 players through sewers, 1 right through main, 3 players holding this site. It's almost like they predicted this.
Rolling Thunder, rush in from Legend. The play, though, majority in from short, and huge paranoia from Columbia College to keep them back. Predzu, though, only having taken down the run it back, still they're up and alive, and it's all falling apart at the seams for TMU. Decay has to play in the corner. You have to hope that Huns can do something big, but the turn around the end and Legend on site. You're running out of time and you're running out of lives. Columbia College, strong arm defend the A site.